This is the inaugural annual meeting of the Africa Empowered. The theme for this year and going forward is Africa Empowered with Dignity.
So, I implore you on the global dignity to actually nationalize dignity and make sure that that right is entrenched for everyone.
I will deliver my address here this morning mindful of Madiba's injunction that now is the time to act. Furthermore, Dr. Mandela informed the leaders of the G7 countries as follows, and I quote, "Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity, it is an act of justice. It is the protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life." It can be said that ultimately, the quest for freedom and democracy in our land was indeed the pursuit for human dignity. Over the past 16 years, human dignity has enjoyed primacy as a key founding value of our constitutional democracy. But the question that we must ask here this morning is whether indeed the majority in our society today have full and unfettered access to the right of human dignity.
Our theme for this next year is Africa must be empowered with dignity. So everything that we would be looking at, whether it's the Ayetu Sonke project, the Music Empowers project, is that Africa must be empowered with dignity.
The definition of our dignity, just to bestow one with respect and a sense of value.
What kind of commitment can we make to that?
Can't enforce socio-economic rights. So if you can make sure that you can actually sue for them in government, then maybe the money that is put in place to ensure that those things happen will be utilized for those things. But if they can't be held accountable for it, because the Constitution doesn't allow you to sue for socio-economic rights, then we can't ensure that it actually happens.
I think there's a danger of breeding self-entitlement. If we then, because the right to human dignity is there in the Constitution, so if then we say people must force the government, say I'm hungry, well, I'm making it very simplistic, but that's what, understand that is what is going to end up happening. People are going to be going and striking because
they're entitled to it.
We need to actually make it an individual responsibility to empower ourselves. That self-empowerment, like you can relate it to, let's say, just the understanding of what you need for you to actually break through all these challenges that are an impediment towards your empowerment.
This thing made it seem as if dignity was something we had to give people, whereas we saw it as something that should be built from within.
What was interesting is going to some of the tables and seeing their definition of dignity was, for South Africa, I guess, if there's 50 countries participating, our definition of dignity is more in line with empowerment. We call it empowerment. So it was interesting, everyone was saying empowerment.
Economic empowerment does not necessarily translate to mental emancipation or,
the mental empowerment.
When you understand and you have a sense of dignity, you have a sense of worth, you have a sense of self, you have a sense of who you are, and you'll have a sense of integrity.
So we've anchored our agenda on three programs. One, we need to make sure that we can harness the girl effect and make sure that we can maximize the value capture by women, because the value that is captured by women is circulated. And we're not men bashing, okay? So we're just saying, let's redirect the resources, more resources at all levels to women to be able to make sure that that value is circulated. So that's one. Two, we're looking at the Ayetu Sonke Lepi campaign. And through that campaign, people can be able to understand what the opportunities are and what the framework is and how they can be able to participate. And so through the Ayetu Sonke campaign, we are able to make sure that the benefits actually trickle down to the intended beneficiaries. And everybody in this room can be able to play a big role in letting that message go across. And the third one, it's called the Music Empowers Project. We not only focus on economic kind of projects, but we also want to look at the social projects that have a whole lot of nourishing effect on our minds and on our souls as well. So the Music Empowers Project, whereby we are preserving the South African classics so that they can be performed over and over again in such a way that it creates sustainability for artists and the creators of that music. That is going to be also our main focus.
It is important for us to start being innovative about how we respond to the capitalization, I'll call it capitalization, needs of women entrepreneurs, responsive to the needs not of them as women per se, but the needs of their businesses, understanding where the business is, stage of development of the business, and what kind of capitalization that is required for that stage of development of a business.
To give a person 210 Rand for their child, to take care of their child is besides being insulting, unfortunately in the desperate situation that these girls find themselves in, is more than they had before. So they are willing, and they don't understand the consequences. So when and I've spoken to a few of these girls, and I said, well, you're 13 years old, why would you want to have a child? No, because I get a child grant, and she's got a child grant. She's pointing to a girl there, and I said, have you gone over there and asked her what it's like to hold this child now, not go to school, and to actually just have to feed this child and do something with it? Have you asked her what it's like? And after a while, you realize that most of the time, it's just a desperation issue, and they haven't had their dignity restored. We haven't given our people who are poor the dignity to actually lead a life that is full of potential. Their lives are hopeless. Their lives they're told on a daily basis that it's worthless. They're given no hope, they're given no chance of reaching any potential, because the infrastructure that they should be entitled to, i.e. just basic education, basic healthcare, all of those things, is so poorly administered and so poorly provided that they think that the way out is this 210 Rand grant. So the problem is broader than the Social Development Ministry. The problem is around who we are as people with money, and who we are as people in the urban areas, and how we reflect on people who are poor.
I believe in affirmative action for the empowerment of the girl is an issue of justice. Archbishop Tutu captures this very well for me when he says, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of the mouse, you say you're neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality.
What about the boy child? Because we are here talking about how we must empower women and how women must stand up for themselves. Now, you have a situation where, okay, boys used to be there and girls here. Now you push girls up, right? And now you push girls beyond boys. And then you find a situation where the boys are disempowered.
There is one hand this notion of nationalization and bailouts, and also on the other hand, if you follow a capitalistic society, you let the vagaries of the market take its course, and you don't have government interference, because most people that are coming from a capitalistic perspective, they say government messes things up, and they might not have the capacity that entrepreneurs have. And so those are just the two sides of the debate.
I think when people think of nationalizing, what they are sometimes looking at, it's a short-term gains when that particular sector is profitable.
If you look at our current economy and the demographics of this country, it doesn't make sense. The majority of this country is black people, but the majority of our resources are in white hands. And the only way you can address that is through nationalization.
Most of the mining houses are foreign held. you know. So you now have a situation where the resources of the country are not being owned by the citizens of the country. So that's precisely what it's trying to address, to bring back ownership of these strategic assets to the hands of the citizens of the country.
Now, that's Julius Malema's opinion.
No. That's the Freedom Charter's perspective on this. That's the Freedom Charter's perspective.
For me, nationalization will assist in that, in changing a lot of influence, with black people having influence in the running of the economy of the country.
That was really wonderful, and walking around the room, hearing the deliberations and the depth. Of course, we don't have enough time, but it seems like we're just starting these conversations, and we should not let them end here. We should take these conversations out and really live some of the principles we've been discussing. Bill George asked, he would have loved to be here, but he's coming next year when we launch the True North Leadership Program. And this is the letter that he sent to us on the Global Dignity Day. And he says, for Africa Empowered, it is my great pleasure to endorse the Africa Empowered program and your work with True North Leadership. In this remarkable period of renewal for South Africa, nothing is more important for the future of your great country than the empowerment of leaders in all sectors of society. After suffering for decades of dictatorial, top-down leadership, the new South Africa is being revived by the spirit of empowerment throughout the country. It is at the core of former President Nelson Mandela's spirit and President Jacob Zuma's calling to unite all the people of South Africa around the building of a great country. Empowerment provides the dignity for all human beings to recognize their calling to serve and their ability to lead, each in their own way. It is at the heart of True North leadership, through which people understand the purpose of their leadership and lead with character by aligning people around common goals and values while enabling others to lead as well. In the months ahead, I look forward to working with you to introduce the True North leadership throughout the country. Through a series of programs and training sessions, we will work together to help all people to follow their true north, their beliefs, values, and principles, and their calling to lead. We will be encouraging people to join together in True North groups of 6 to 8 people to find their true north and to stay on its course. If each of us finds our true north and stay on its course, we can make an enormous contribution to our country and our fellow human beings. Sincerely, Bill George.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and you've been absolutely amazing. Let's go out and network during the cocktail.